Hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We've got a good number of attendees, and I'm sure we'll get some people coming as we go along. But this is being recorded, and you'll all receive a recording at the end. So I'm Saskia. I'm a research grants officer at Alzheimer Society, and today we have a really informative webinar for those of you who are interested in or have started the application process and would like further information on our new research and career development section of the outline proposal. So we'll begin with an overview of what's required for this section. This is going to be led by Sian Gregory, followed by insights from the chair of our grant advisory board, Professor Gill Livingston, and we've got two fantastic grant advisory board members joining us today as well, Professor David Llewellyn and Professor Terry Quinn. And then at the end, we'll have time for a live Q&A session where you can ask questions to Alzheimer's Society, where Sian Gregory can answer those questions, or our grant advisory board members. But please feel free to put your questions in the chat if you think of them throughout the webinar or throughout the slides. And for those of you watching the recording, if you have any questions, our contact details will be displayed on the slides, and we'll be happy to answer your questions at a later date. So without further ado, I'll pass over to Sian to go through some slides. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thanks so much, Saskia. So good morning, everybody. My name's Sian Gregory, and I'm Research Grants Manager at Alzheimer's Society. So I'm responsible for all of our research funding programs at the Society, and I lead our fantastic research grants team. So today we're going to be going over the outline stage of our application process, as Saskia said, but specifically we're going to be looking at a new addition to our outline process, which we'll explain, which is the career development sort of narrative CV section of the application. So if we move to the next slide, please. So just to briefly sum up the kind of submission stages that we have for our research funding program that runs every year at Alzheimer's Society. I'm not going to go into this in too much detail because this was the subject of a longer webinar yesterday. And just to say, if you would like the recording of that webinar and weren't able to attend or register for it, please email us at grantinquiries@alzheimers.org.uk and we will happily send you the recording. But essentially, our grant process goes through our researchers coming up with the different ideas that they want to explore as part of a grant proposal. They will then submit an outline proposal. So the outline is a short proposal, so 2 pages scientific, 1 page lay, and with the addition for early career researchers of an additional page that we're going to talk today about career development. That is then used for a shortlisting process. So our grant advisory board will look at all of the outlines we receive and shortlist down to applications that will be invited for full application. Those applications then come through to us and are taken to our expert review panels, which will look at the scientific quality of those applications. Our lay review panel will assess them from a lay perspective, which is incredibly important to us at Alzheimer's Society. And then finally, our grant advisory board will look at all of that process and make a funding recommendation for which applications should be funded and which will not be. So next slide, please. So today we're talking about the outlines, which is that first step in our process. And the outlines are a short form version of your project idea. So they are showcasing and highlighting the main areas of your project, what you would like to look at, what potential impact it might have. There's also for early career research candidates, so fellowship candidates, the opportunity to highlight a narrative of your career. And that's what we're going to be focusing on today, the kind of career development side of your application. And as I've just mentioned, these outlines are used to shortlist. So they have to be something that's going to catch the attention of our board, really clearly highlight what you're trying to do, why it's going to be important, what difference it's going to make to your career, and to really entreat the board to be interested in seeing a fuller, longer application or proposal from you. Next slide, please. So the career development section is brand new to 2025. We have kind of asked for this information in the past, and it was usually included in the 2 pages of scientific outline that we had as part of our outline guidance. But in 2025, we've opened this up and we've given a specific extra page to the outline process where early career researchers applying for fellowships, developmental grants, or predoctoral bursaries or clinical training fellowships can apply and use this extra page to really focus on their own career development. It's an opportunity for you to outline your research career to date, to explain any career gaps that you might have had in greater detail, and also to explain how the funding that you're applying for will really support your professional development for the future. So it's a great opportunity to show the research leadership that you've shown to date, but also what you hope to get from the funding that you're applying for. One of the things that's been really important to us is we wanted to separate that out from the scientific, so that it doesn't take from the space you have to discuss your scientific ideas and your scientific proposal, but you still have that space to really set the stage for your career development and what this funding will mean for your wider career. Next slide, please. So today's whole session is about what you should include, and I'm not going to spend too long on this because we've got 3 of our experts from our grant advisory board to tell you the kinds of things they'll be looking for and have looked for in other review processes. However, as I've just said, some important things to include are your career progression, so any key milestones or achievements or challenges that you've faced and how you've met them. Any knowledge dissemination and engagement work that you've done, so publications, conference presentations, and public engagement. Any teaching or mentorship that you might have done in your career to date, so where you've made contributions to capacity building or to supporting and educating others. And as I mentioned before, that future goal. So what is the importance of this funding application to where you are in your career, and what impact will it have on your personal and your professional growth? Next slide, please. So I just want to quickly go over the important dates for this year's grant round. So the proposal call opened at the end of January, and the outlines will be closing on the 28th of March. This deadline is fixed, so please do get your outlines to us by the 28th of March if you'd like to apply for our funding in 2025. Shortlisting decisions will be released to applicants in June 2025 after we've held our shortlisting meeting, and that's when you'll be able to start, if you've been invited to apply for a full proposal, that's when you can start working on that proposal. Full proposals, the deadline for those being received is the 1st of August, so we need to receive all full proposals by that date. And then we will be going out to applicants with outcomes of the funding decisions that we make this year before Christmas. And then if you are successfully funded, that contracting process will happen in February 2026. Next slide, please. So if you would like to contact us about anything regarding your application, please do reach out to us on email, and we've got our grant inquiries inbox that all of the team monitor. We're happy to answer any questions while you're going through that pre-application process or during the whole application process as a whole. You can keep up to anything we're doing at Alzheimer Society and our research teams with either our Twitter or our Blue Sky, and the handles are on the slide there. And of course, we'll make sure that the slides and the recording of this webinar are available to you, so you'll receive those if you've registered, and we'll also be sending them out to anybody who's got an active application open. Next slide, please. And just before I hand over to Gill, a shameless plug for our Early Career Researcher Retreat. So this is a fantastic event that we host. We've hosted it for, this will be our 4th year in July. It's on the 8th and 9th of July at the Mercure Hotel in Northampton. And it's a early career researcher retreat focused predominantly on career development. So it's not a scientific conference. All of the sessions are about developing skills that will be beneficial to your career. We run a mock grant board where you can take part in a grant review meeting, and the team try and set that up to be as realistic to a real mock grant board decision-making meeting as possible. But there's lots of sessions, lots of speakers. So you can use the QR code on the slide, get more information, register. You don't have to be funded by Alzheimer Society to join, and we would love to see you. But with that, I will hand over to Gill just to say, if you have any questions for our panel, please do put them in the Q&A box or the chat, and Saskia will be directing those to the panel towards the end of the meeting. But Gill, over to you.
Thank you. And thank you to the 33 participants who I can't see for coming to listen to us. So we've added this, as Sian says, because what the Alzheimer's Society is most focused on is developing future leaders in research, because there's going to be a future. It's not going to be cured in the next week or two. And we need to have people who are a bit younger than, say, me, who are coming in. So to do that, this is sort of the most important thing. We give more points, we add points to people trying to get fellowships. And so we need to know about you. Are you the person who might make a big difference to people with dementia in the future? And one of the big things is, of course, that past predicts future. So we need to know about what you've done. And we need to know why you, but we also know about, we need to know about what you intend to do. And we want you to be ambitious and to talk about developing yourself within it. So why you, we want to know about publications, research, prizes, lectures, grants that you have. We also want it to be appropriate for the time in your career. So we're not trying to, we don't expect people who've not been working very long to have done as much as people who've been working long. So we want you to explain why at this stage, why you're at the stage. And if there's been a reason why you've not been able to do as much, say so explicitly. It's absolutely fine to have had personal health, any types of reasons why not to be able to do it, but why you've not been able to do as much, but just tell us, because we don't know. And then so we want to know what you've done, but also what you've done to develop others, because one of the big things that leaders have to do is to bring forward other people and to be generous and helpful in their contributions. So we don't expect you to be there yet. That's the point of a fellowship. A fellowship is not a grant. It's a way of developing yourself. So we want your training plan. Sorry, I've got a cold. So we want your training plan, and we want to know what training you're going to do, and what you're going to learn. And we're looking both for particular skills in whatever project you're going to do, because we expect that you'll need new ones, but also generic skills that you're going to need in the future, because we're hoping that in the future you'll be out there talking to people and spreading the word about how much we can do and what a difference it makes. So we want your training plan, and we want the training plan not to be too generic. We want to understand why you are training in these particular things. So we also want to know about the place that you are in. And one of the things, just as for you, for them, is important is their track record. Have they developed people? And, do they have a track record of helping people get the best out of themselves and stay in work and be promoted? Because as we know that research work is a very uncertain work. And do they support you in particular? Do they think that you are the right person to do the job, and how do we know that they support you? So really that's the main thing. We are thinking about person, project, place, but person is extraordinarily important. Now, the project could be written, I'm not saying it should be written, it should not be written, but it could be written by your supervisors. And what we don't want to do is basically give these successful supervisors more research assistants. We want to develop fellows who will be leaders in the future. So keep that in mind while you're writing, that we are trying to develop, and we need to know that it's a partnership. The Alzheimer's Society will develop them, but also that the university and your supervisors in particular will develop you. And that's all I've got to say. It's really simple. Just follow these and we'll hope for success. It's also a limited amount of money. So if everyone gets fantastically better, we'll still be giving the same number of people grants, because we've only got a certain amount of money. But the more we can say to the board, look, we've got these fabulous people, make us more money, give us more money, the more successful we are. So thanks for attending, and I'm really happy to enter. Now, I'm not sure in what order. It's Terry and David who are all, I chair the board, so that means I don't vote, but I talk a lot, and Terry and David do vote. So don't know who's next. Is it Terry?
So David, you can go ahead first, maybe.
David.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I would echo all of that. Thank you, Jill. I think it's absolutely fine to acknowledge that we've all got other things going on in our lives. You might have had things like career interruptions. Don't be apologetic if that has happened to you. Just explain what's happened. Don't feel the need to over-explain, whether it's illness or parental leave or anything like that. I honestly think that people are much more open to varied career trajectories. We really, really want the best people with the best ideas. These are the future leaders who are going to be telling people like me what to do in the future. That's what we're all aiming for. Dementia research is not a huge community still. So when you're thinking about your environment and you're explaining why you want to do things in a certain environment, just be sensitive to what that environment would and wouldn't bring you. So you might be in a very large, prestigious, established institution. Well, that's fine. That will help you do certain things. But actually, we're also interested in things like growing regional capacity. In certain circumstances, it can actually be easier to do things like set up your own group and be maybe a bit more entrepreneurial in different environments. So just to have a think about how those things relate to you, and just play to those strengths. I would. Sometimes people are a little bit vague in sections, so try and evidence what you've done, and don't forget transferable skills. So going back to these varied career paths and so on, if you haven't just gone through this old school sort of step-by-step progression to greatness, if you haven't done that, then think about what you've learned, the life experience. If you've done things outside of academia or whatever, explain why that's changed you. So really what I'm interested in is a personal narrative. I don't typically know you when I'm reading applications, but I'm interested if you explain it. I think I'm a sucker for a great story. So I'd be looking for that. We all vary as reviewers, but nevertheless, I think the applications that go down well are that in a non-generic way explain where you've come from and why you've ended up here and why you want to do this rather than other things, and why it's personal to you. And it doesn't have to be direct experience of, I don't know, members of your family having dementia or whatever. It could be, but that's up to you. That's your personal journey. So I wouldn't get, like the old idea of scientific objectivity and so on. Sometimes we're almost uncomfortable talking about ourselves in this kind of way, but this section is really about the person. It's really about you. And I would just go big on that. I wouldn't be shy. Maybe get some feedback from other people that already know you and say, well, is this balanced? Similarly, don't go wild and make ridiculous claims about, taking over the world with no support from others and things. I mean, but don't under-egg it either. I know that's really bad advice, but you do see both mistakes being made. So, get feedback on, how ambitious can I be? And when we're making decisions, we're literally, even with very good applicants, we're going like, how confident are we? And you say, well, actually, this person talked to me at a poster and they came across brilliantly. And you know, so yeah, just getting across that vision, be excited about it, and do as much as you can to kind of capture that in the space that you have. It's quite a limited amount of space, so you're going to have to craft it quite carefully. So I think those are my initial thoughts. Thank you.
Okay, so if I come in now, thanks, David, for that. I mean, of course, I agree with everything that David and Gill said. What I'd say about this section and narrative CVs in general is they're becoming more common across all the research funders. And I think when there's a change, people see that as a threat. But I want you to see this as an opportunity, because it allows you to put yourself in a context that a very rigid application form with boxes doesn't really allow you to do. So, you know, people have different careers, they have different journeys into research, and it allows you to start to describe that. So if you've had to take time off because of illness, because of, you know, having kids, because of a viral pandemic, we're still seeing the effects of that. It gives you a chance just to give a narrative around that. Also, and this is something that we're increasingly seeing, if you're coming into dementia from another space, talk about that. Talk about the things you've done in other research areas that are transferable. Because you've got free rein here, it also allows you just to justify some things that the panel may notice in an application. In the bad old days, we used to talk a lot about research mobility, and there was this sort of perception that you had to travel around various universities in the UK and internationally to be a good researcher. It's nonsense. But you can use this section to explain why you are where you are, why you're staying there, and that's being driven by research. The other thing I want people to think about in this section is the future as well. So what really goes down badly at the grant panel is if we see something very generic. If people say, my university runs training in communication of science, so I'll go on that course, full stop. That's not impressive. We want to see something that's bespoke to you. We want to see that you've had a think about your development, you've spoke to supervisors, you've spoke to mentors, and you've crafted something that's absolutely specific to you. That's what starts to look impressive. And then the last thing I'd say is, this is not a section where you want to be modest. You've got to be slightly un-British here. We want people to become international thought leaders. We want people to grow teams. We want people to be global superstars who achieve chairs, who change the world. So if you say in the section, well, you know, if the planets align and if I'm very lucky, I might finish this grant and I might recruit to target. We don't want that. We really want to hear about your ambition. And ambition is important in research. I think that's probably all I've got to say, but I'm happy to answer questions, as I'm sure are David and Gill.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you to all the panelists for a really informative and inspiring overview of what you kind of expect in a great application. We have 5 minutes for Q&A. We've received a few questions already on the formatting, so the word limit, and we can confirm that it is 1 page for this CV narrative, and it's a PDF upload, similar to the scientific and lay section where you upload a one-page document. We also had a question on feedback, and we can confirm that all unsuccessful applications will be receiving feedback. So just to reassure everyone that you will get the feedback on your applications. We've received a question. It's kind of, I think we may have answered it already in your overviews, but someone was asking about those that have a chunk of career outside of dementia, but have kind of links due to techniques. Is this still relevant for this section? And I think this really nicely links to what all of you said, David and Terry specifically, also looking at highlighting those transferable skills. But I don't know if anyone wants to add anything extra to that question about career outside of dementia.
Absolutely, yes, is the answer to that. But don't forget that it's not limited to technical skills. So imagine you would say you're a lab-based scientist and you say, oh, well, I was working on cancer, but I've got this experience of these assays or whatever. That's fine. But you were also working in a different kind of environment, in a different field. or you may have been doing some completely different. You may have been a care worker, and actually it just gave you a completely different perspective on the struggles people face in everyday life or whatever. So think a little more laterally about what you might include in that. Again, I'd be fascinated to hear what you learn. You know, a lot of academics, myself included, live in a slight bubble, and you know, it's a strength in my view if you've learned things from another area which you can bring to bear. I mean, sometimes we're even going out of our way to find people who don't have any experience of dementia research and doing our best to pull them in. So again, that's not a weakness, right? That's an opportunity.
And I'd completely agree with that. I think don't be apologetic. The dementia field, it needs new ideas. So if you're coming from engineering, if you're coming from physics, if you're coming from a different clinical discipline, you're going to bring skills, but you're also going to bring a new perspective. And actually, we need that. So just as you start to explain these things, you don't need to apologize. You know, we want those fresh ideas. We want those new opinions.
Brilliant. Thanks, Terry. Gill, did you want to add anything to that? Oh, we can't hear you.
We're looking for brilliant researchers, and there are a lot of brilliant people who haven't had an academic background. So we're trying to get them in. You know, so if you, it's not, we're particularly enthusiastic about someone who said, so I was working in dementia care as a whatever, or in the Alzheimer Society, and I realized that I could make a difference myself, not just to the individuals, but to everyone. And that's hugely impressive. I think the other thing I wanted to talk about was a bit about what David particularly said, but Terry as well, about underselling and overselling yourself. And I think that's very, I think it's very individual. I think there's a sort of generally a sort of British thing that it's not very nice to be positive about yourself. So get someone else to read it and say, are you underselling yourself? But also don't oversell yourself. So it's quite good to get another perspective from it, and say, in the other perspective, you know, somebody who's reading it say, actually, this actually sounds quite obnoxiously confident. I think that will be rare, but you might as well hear it. Or as it will be much more common, you've you know, you barely mentioned the fact that you have had all these fantastic achievements, that you're a great communicator, that you do stand-up comedy and thousands of people come and hear you. I'm not saying that applies to many people, but all of these things that you have, a lot of people are extremely modest, and the problem is that modesty doesn't sell for people who don't know you. It might sell for your colleagues who do know you. So don't be too modest, but don't be objectionable either, and get an opinion on it, because our own opinion is probably not enough.
Brilliant, thank you so much. We're at 11:30 now, so we've come to the end. There is one last question which I'm hoping we can have a quick answer to. It's about publications. The application only shows up the 10 more relevant publications. How can we add a list of all publications in one page if we also need to mention other aspects like teaching and mentorship positions? I don't know, Sian, is that something that you'd be able to answer?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the board agree, but I think from my perspective, we're not asking for an entire, this is every publication you've ever written, and the relevant ones are captured in your application. I think it's the publications that really tie into that story that the board have really highlighted, which are the ones that have been those standout moments for you, which are the ones that really highlight what you're trying to say about your career journey to date. And it is a balancing act, because there is a lot that you can put into a relatively small piece of outline in terms of only one page. So you do need to find that balance. But I think if you can balance the publications with the other aspects that we're looking for, that's the key of trying to touch as many of those bases as possible. I can see David, Gill, you've got your hands up, so I'll pass to David first, maybe, because you got there first with the hand.
Okay, thank you. It's quality, not quantity. That's true at any career stage. I'm not interested in your 29th publication. If you have that many, it's really not helpful. What we want to know is which publications are most relevant? What are you most excited about? What are you most proud about? That's what you should be emphasizing, and 10 is plenty for that. There was a publish or perish mentality before, where volume was given great importance. We need to move on from that. So try and relax about the volume, and I haven't communicated just quite how many I've got out there. That's not what I'm looking for, and not what a lot of my colleagues will be looking for. Yeah, I'll just leave it there. Thank you.
Yeah, I say to people in my group, publish less, publish better. Don't, stop littering the literature. It becomes very difficult. So you can say I have 29 publications, but really I'm interested to know that they're being cited, that they're making a difference. I mean, I usually look up, to be honest, and have a little look in Google Scholar, but are they being cited? Do people use them? Are they leading to other things? Are they, what impact are you having? And these are the important things. What's the importance? So you can see I've got 29 publications, and I've got an H index of 2. And what that tells me is that people aren't really citing it. But you can see I've only got 6, but they're all leading to things and being cited and really important and part of my story. And of course, it depends on which stage of your life you're at. As you get older, you accumulate numbers of publications, and as you've done less, you accumulate less. So don't worry about the number. Don't list them all, but say this is a really important thing. It's part of my story. It shows I can communicate. It shows that. It shows impact. It leads to my next question. That's what I want to know. These are the important things. And it doesn't necessarily need to be in dementia. If you can show that, it really shows you can write, because there's a lot of people that can't. But we've got a page there to see if you can write, and that'll help as well. But I want to wish you good luck. And I also want to tell you that some people will be unsuccessful, and it does not mean that they won't have successful careers, and it does not mean they are not good. We've some of the professors in my division in dementia have not been funded by the Alzheimer Society. The Alzheimer Society have turned them down. Nothing. We're looking for great people, but we don't get them all. We don't fund them all. So don't give up, keep going. Many of the best ideas have had to apply more than once. And it's quite a hard road, but the rewards are great. It's a really interesting and useful thing to do.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Jill. And thank you, David, Terry and Sian, for really fantastic advice. And it's been really inspiring, and I'm sure other people will agree that it's been a fantastic session. I'd love to carry on listening to you all, but we have come to the end. So thank you everyone for joining us today. And if you have any questions or didn't get a chance to ask them, or if you think of something later, please feel free to email us and we'll definitely get back to you. We want to wish you all the best for your applications. And yeah, have a good rest of the day. Thank you again, the panelists, so much for joining us.